I'm trapped in a bag. I'm trapped in a bag.
Okay. Happy Saturday, everybody.
Hello. Welcome to the Z group right now. We're saving through. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being Patreon backers. That's awesome. Your being backers helps us do cool things like this, and we appreciate it. I am here today with Terry and Michael. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and say hello.
Hi, I'm Terry Gamble.
Hi, I'm Michael Robert Holmes. Strike that, reverse
that, yeah.
So we're going to be going into our new season of Black Bag. We've got 3 new players with our cast, and we've also are going to be on Monday nights starting on October 23rd, which is rapidly approaching. We've all been kind of doing a lot of research. We're using Fate Core this time instead of Call of Cthulhu, so it's going to change the overall dynamic of the game. We're going to be going for a little bit less falling into madness kind of stuff, so we won't be doing sand checks and all that. And
a wild dom appears.
And a wild dom appears out of nowhere. Kelsey's going to be joining us as well. She's on Never Tell Me the Odds. And then Ben is also coming back, which is really cool. And so anyway, we're switching things up. And, you can barely hear me. No. Let me see. Should I try to move this around, do you think? Maybe go down here.
Pretty good. I don't know.
Have you tried speaking from your diaphragm, perhaps?
Maybe I'm not How about this? I'll try my superhero voice.
Stop, Cthulhu!
So, research-wise, for the Am I Any Better? Banana Drummer 95. All right.
Okay. Oh, that's just the way he sounds.
That's just,
Yeah, that's
if
pretty
you
normal.
ever speak with Wes in real life, he does have kind of a weird 3-second delay. It takes some getting used to.
It's my nose is kind of weird. It's like cavernous, so there's this echo thing. It was really great in the 90s, but now it's kind of fallen out of vogue.
Just like ska.
Just like ska. Yeah, if you're not doing ska at 175 beats per minute, it's not worth it.
Nope.
Anyway, so what was it saying? Oh yeah,
research.
Research. So when I came up with the idea of putting in 1977, and New York is because New York at the time was in a terrible place. It was falling apart. It was decay. It's basically Innsmouth with a lot more people. And so I thought it would be kind of cool to hit on that. And then I started studying things like the Black Panthers and watching movies like Cleopatra Jones and Foxy Brown. And I realized that, a lot of the issues that we're having today are, the same issues that we were having back then. The through Black Lives Matter is not a new thing. It is there's a thread through the Black Panthers and through Martin Luther King and all these different things. And so it's definitely it definitely uses, things like Shaft and all those kind of movies, as well as being, I'm better. Woohoo! Thank you, Farquaad. As well as being kind of a comment on what we're dealing with both politically and socially now. Anyway, I don't want to talk the whole time. So what do we've had one practice game. What are you guys looking forward to when we actually start up on the 23rd? Like, what are some of the things that you are excited about or things that you've researched recently?
Terry, you want to go first, or do you want me?
I'll let you go. You're ready. I felt that breath, and he was like, I've got all these things to say.
Well, Wes, I'm glad that you asked that. No, I've obviously been a Lovecraft fan for quite a while now. I feel like it's the gateway. D&D is the gateway drug to H.P. Lovecraft.
It totally is.
But being, kind of I like to think, politically savvy individual in 2017 and seeing how history is kind of horribly repeating itself when Wes kind of first floated the notion to set a fantastical kind of grindhouse style Call of Cthulhu game with a real backdrop of social relevance set in 1977. I was like, fuck yeah, of course I want to do that. You know, and I don't want to give too much away, but one of the things that my character might be exploring a little bit is, what does it mean to really have faith in a world where the impossible things are happening? I mean, how do you reconcile seeing a fish man when, you know, you go to communion every Saturday or whatever? You know, how do you square that? And also, you know, just running around having fun, kind of gritty, like, cop adventures in New York City in 1977. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? You know what I mean? And actually, if I could make a film recommendation, because Wes mentioned a few, it's by American International Pictures, who did a ton of great stuff. You should Google them. But as part of their exploitation spate in the 70s, they did one called Sugar Hill, which is different than the Wesley Snipes Sugar Hill movie that came out in the early 90s, which is like a gangster movie. But this one is about it is about a gangster in Harlem who gets killed, and his lady is a voodoo practitioner. So she raises an army of the dead to get revenge on his murderer.
As you do.
And it also has one of the best opening title songs ever, and that's "Supernatural Voodoo Woman," which I know for a fact is on YouTube. So you should check it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
No, I am with you. I'm super excited to be here and excited about this adventure. Was mad inspired because I've been obsessed with the 70s since I was a child. I was that kid.
70s?
Well, anywho, no, I was that kid who wore like bell bottoms in middle school, and like people thought I was really weird. I was just ahead of my time, I think, before the trend came back around again, and then again, and it comes back again. Yep. I love disco. I love all of that. So I was really excited about that. And then there's been so many great things coming out that feels relevant as well too, like The Deuce on HBO right now has been super fun to watch, and that's kind of in our space as well.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't checked that out, I recommend that too. Some great work by the Franco on that too, double timing. But I'm really excited to really explore the social relevance of it as well. That's what really got me. And Wes is also awesome. So when he invited me, I was like, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't underline that enough. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gamed with Wes a few times now, with him as the GM, and he's really, really good stuff. So
really getting into the story, and that's what really inspired me. We're really going to dive deep into what these characters are struggling with, and really bringing those real life kind of struggles that we have, especially like you said right now in the political climate and everything too. There's a lot of similarities. Even just looking, I've been watching the Vietnam War on PBS this last few weeks too, and oh my goodness, just it's so easy. You can see when they break down what really happened. Like, this is where this person was dug in. This is what they saw. When people can only see things from where they're at, you can see how easy things can explode. So I'm excited to dig into that and see how crazy we get.
What was interesting to me about there's on Netflix, there's a PBS documentary. It's like 2 hours long on the Black Panthers. And I watched that before I started watching, Cleopatra Jones and all those movies. And what was interesting to me is when you watch that, you can absolutely see why those movies have, like the cops are busting in, and the community that they're busting into has guns and they're defending themselves. And if you watch the Black Panther stuff, you realize that it's a through line through all of it. It's very interesting because Black Panthers kind of died out around, they were having a lot of internal strife around 1974, but their influence was still there. And no, you can go back and nitpick every single thing that they did, and there are going to be certain things that, you're like, well, they shouldn't have done that, or why'd they do this? But that wasn't the point. The point was they were trying to get freedom for their communities. And
trying to get resources,
right?
like
trying to get resources,
food.
I think there's a lot of people, who say, well, there are good cops out there, and absolutely there are good cops out there. But trust me, if Rodney King was not filmed, there would not have been the riots because people wouldn't have saw the brutality. the reason that we are so hyper aware of everything right now is because everything's filmed. Back then, it wasn't filmed. So think of the shit that people got away with under the guise of, hey, I've got a badge, whether it was the FBI or the local police. And though the game is not going to be, a constant, club over the head with, political commentary, I don't think you can do a 1977 game without having some of that in there and being respectful of the people who risked their lives to try to change what was going on. Because, the 60s movement was, let's be peaceful, let's not fight, and
Then they started killing people.
then they started killing people. I mean,
Then that's a problem,
and that's
so-
a problem.
that people wonder, like,
You start killing
why do people
you're gonna
fight
have
back?
a bad time.
Yeah, so I mean, when people are assassinated and it's dubious and you're not sure who's doing the killings and
Right.
why there's murder and people wonder what happened, that's what happened, is a peaceful movement was taken down. The symbol of peace was gunned down,
Yeah.
so things are going to change.
Definitely.
And I feel like too, in the context of this game, this world that we're building together, like any really good story, it uses layers of metaphor and whatnot to kind of allow us to realize or examine who are the real monsters. Like in a world where there are horrible things from beyond the stars,
who comes out now on the setting wise. Like I said, we're not going to be diving into sanity loss over time. A lot of times with Call of Cthulhu stuff, there's definitely that, they're going insane, roll for your phobia, roll for your mania. Because we're doing Fate, sure, the characters might be afraid during a scene.
never.
And they might take a consequence from that.
You're going to be the most afraid. I can feel it.
Oh, totally. Oh my God, totally. Yeah.
They might get a consequence from that,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like, they have to deal with an aspect. In Fate, for those of you who don't know, it's built on these different aspects where, like, you might have always likes to fire before, fire first, talk later, right? And so I can go as the GM, hey, I'll give you a fate point if you fire at this bad guy first instead of talking. And they're like, okay, I'll take the fate point and I'll shoot this guy. When you do things that, there's also mental aspects. So if Terry sees something horrible and she takes a mental hit from it, she can then write down an aspect, whatever that might be. Can't eat spaghetti for a month, whatever, right? That's her thing.
That's real life.
Yeah.
But unlike Call of Cthulhu, there's no longer going to be the sanity loss over time. She's going to be okay because these characters are a little tougher. They're definitely more gritty and they're able to handle things better. They're not fighting to keep their minds stable. They're fighting the evils that are out there. And so I think that's one of the aspects that will make it a little bit different than the last couple of seasons of Black Bag and, fun. You got to change things up. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. So.
And actually, just to piggyback on you saying I will probably be the most frightened character.
I just have a feeling. I don't know.
No.
Put it out there, guys.
Another movie that I'm kind of drawing inspiration from is another British horror movie from the 70s called The Haunting of Hell House, which we talked about, which is about a group of paranormal investigators going into this giant old mansion, and it's shot beautifully to try and figure out what is basically possessing it. And Roddy McDowall from Everything plays the only investigator to have survived another expedition there. So when he comes back, he's having a real hard time kind of just dealing. So I'm using that as a little bit of a springboard maybe. So,
that's pretty awesome. When I was, years ago, I used to do record trailers for movies, and we had people come in, and Harry Potter was coming out, and it was this old English actor who, the whole 9 yards, Harry Potter's and the Sorcerer's Stone. And after a take, he would just launch into these, 10-minute long
You worked
stories
with
about.
Jim Dale?
Is that who? I can't remember his name.
He's like award-winning for those
Yeah.
narrations. I
He-
listened to that for
he can't-
yeah.
comes
You're a
He's
fan
like-
or something, Terry.
Huge.
I had forgotten.
Yeah.
Because, and he was like, he'd launch into these stories about Roddy McDowall or whoever.
God.
He's like, I remember doing this play with Roddy McDowall, and it's like,
Yes.
okay, we're gonna be here for
That's
20
it.
minutes.
Or no, sorry. There's The Haunting of Hill House, and I'm thinking The Legend of Hell House.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
The Haunting of Hill House is good. The old one, not the remake with Owen Wilson and Liam Neeson, because that's kind of garbage. But no, Legend of Hell House. Sorry, Bandana Drummer. Thank you for calling me on that.
There are so many. The problem I'm having is music, because Michelle and I wrote pieces of music for the intro and for all this different stuff, and it's very 70s. It's very cool, but
Groovy.
when you listen to stuff like, the Stones are so 1970s New York, it's hard to get them out of my brain, or Stevie Wonder, or, it just goes on and on. And so you sit there and go, wow, I really wish copyright was a little bit more flexible. Wish I didn't have to pay $30,000 to use a song once.
Right.
But, we don't want to get sued. So.
There's some groovy tunes out there.
There are.
I know some people who write some groovy stuff too. We can probably latch on to as well.
Yeah, because there's so much goodness from that era that Vinyl. HBO did a show called
Yeah.
Vinyl.
Yeah.
It was
Oh, yeah.
too expensive, so they only did one season.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Was it all the music rights?
Yeah, it was all the
Oh,
music
yeah.
rights, and it was pretty expensive. It's like Rome. It's like HBO does that all the time. They're like, here's this wonderful thing, and you only get 2 seasons of it. Thanks a lot. Rome was awesome, and now it's gone. Or, Carnival or Carnival.
Well, that
yeah.
Carnival was actually a victim of the writer's strike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because there was plans to do a 3rd season and then a movie, I think. But at this point, that would be.
I think we were all
Yep.
victims of the writer's strike. I think.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yep.
So the other thing that's going to be interesting is I made a map for New York, and I'm planning to stay pretty much within this area. A lot of times with the other shows, we were kind of going all over the place, especially with Vikings, because they're Vikings.
They travel.
But there's so much story that can be packed into literally a few miles of island. It's amazing. So we're kind of excited.
It's like a real trip to New York.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that was the other, though we're doing New York and I'm doing all this studying and everything else, I have changed it. Which brings me to Elder Gods. Okay, so you guys have not been a part of the show. The chat is Elder Gods. Okay, that's what we call them, because they can change the entire structure of the storyline, and since everything is connected, they can affect a lot of things. So at the end of Black Bag's Vikings last year, the finale, they unlocked Azathoth, which is this huge idiot god in the center of the universe that destroys everything, and they caused a huge crack in the sky.
Oh, that's right. There's the crack in the sky.
Right. So in the Viking times, it's just literally a line that goes, along the sky, and it looks the same no matter where you're at. So if you're in Australia, it looks the same. If you're in London, it looks the same. As time has gone on, the rift has opened more and more. So if you watch the last episode, I ran 2 games where you had the cyberpunk version and the Vikings version. And in the cyberpunk version, the crack was just this huge cut in the sky. Well, New York 1977, the crack is pretty big at this point, because there's only about 100 years between the two, or 90 years. And that particular, it's the reason why there is more mythos bleed into this world than a normal Call of Cthulhu world, excuse me. And you guys, Elder Gods, had everything to do with that. Anytime you guys put into the story, it can completely change everything. And you're going to see that a lot with Black Bag, where you're going to go into something and say, okay, well, the Dreamlands now, because of this crack, now leaks in to the rest of the world. And that's why things like zombies or vampires or something might actually occur, because we're having nightmares about them, and they appear in the Dreamlands, and then through the crack in the sky they appear in real world. And you guys help do that, so thank you. Oh, there's a couple questions. Whatever. Okay, and
That's a good question.
well, okay, so, and I'll answer the first question, and then you guys can kind of respond and tell me what
Okay.
you think about my idea. And if you think I'm wrong, you can say, "Hey, fuckhead, you're wrong."
I would
I would
never,
never
say
say that.
But so, yeah, Dom,
Dom,
totally
100%, yeah.
So my idea is like
ready.
this, okay? Black bag detectives are people who deal with supernatural occurrences in the cities, crimes committed by creatures otherworldly or not human. The culture of the cops in the 1970s was corrupt, very corrupt in the city. They would take bribes. They worked with the mob. They had all these different things. They weren't cleaned up until the 90s, and then they went to bad things.
Yeah.
Even then, they went from being
Cleaner.
really corrupt to authoritarian. It
Yep,
was a
different
totally
regime.
different thing.
Yep.
So, but in this time, the black bag detectives are detectives that are considered expendable. They are put in these really bad situations because they're not necessarily the ones that play along with the rules that have been set up. And so they're good at their jobs, they're competent, but they're also a thorn in the side. And that was my idea. That way we can have good cops in New York without constantly having to butt up against, well, is this guy going to take this bribe or whatever? And the other idea was because everything is stretched so thin, they also didn't have a lot of cops, that they had so much crime going on. During the Son of Sam murders, they had something like 140 people, 140 cops looking for the Son of Sam. And if you think about how big that city
How
is,
dense it is.
that's nothing, right? So that means that the entire police force is stretched thin, and so they don't have the resources they should have. So they have to rely on each other to make this stuff happen, to stop these horrible things from coming in and damaging the world. I kind of look at it as a mixture of like X-Files and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, really, as that kind of feel of like
I'd sign off on that.
being kind of kick-ass.
And Hill Street Blues.
And Hill Street
Oh.
Blues.
Oh, and I
Right.
also said
Right.
Scooby-Doo, but you know.
And
no.
Scooby-Doo's
And also Misfits of Science, if anybody remembers that.
Yep.
Okay.
So I hope that
Quite
kind of
nice.
answers
Yeah.
that question. What do you guys think? I mean, does that kind of line up with what you were thinking? How we would deal with the whole cop corruption thing of the time? Because it was before. God, why am I forgetting his name? What mayor? Ed
Bloomberg?
Koch.
Oh, Koch.
Koch
God.
came in the end of '77.
He's awful.
And he came in at the end of '77 and promised to clean everything up. And then the guy before Bloomberg was
Giuliani?
Giuliani at the
Rudy.
time. Giuliani was I believe, he was a prosecutor. And so him and Koch started going through and trying to change everything. And, they went about it in, like I said, a very authoritarian way instead of actually saying, why is there poverty and how do we fix it? And so they just started beating up
Poor
on
people are
poor
bad.
people
Just
and-
treating symptoms or
Yeah,
whatever, but
with a foot on the throat.
Yeah.
So, but that's the main idea, is that the black bag detectives are considered expendable, even though they're extremely important, and without them, the world would. Because let's face it, New York is dying at this point, and it is attracting all these horrible things that are coming in. The mythos loves decay. They love, and so that being said, you're kind of looking at the, like if they are the protectors of humanity, and also
even as humanity seems to be falling apart,
right.
this ragtag group comes together.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And it's not like every single person runs into a deep one. Most people, because of the human condition, won't believe something, even though they might see something. They'll put it out of their mind. They'll try to forget it,
Rationalize it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it kind of has a World of Darkness feel in that way, because in World of Darkness, the common person is not going to be like, I went out and saw 16 vampires. Well, no, because if you had, you would be dead.
You're crazy.
Right. And it's the same thing with this. Not everybody.
16 vampires. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't ever apologize for that. That was amazing.
Go on.
The Count's orgies have gotten really big.
Well,
It was the 70s.
It was the 70s.
Swing it.
And so you've got it's definitely a wealth of story that you can get into. So I hope that answers that question.
And yeah, I mean, I feel like the black bag detectives are an interesting bunch. They're kind of the undesirables, but at the same time, like you said, they're also very useful.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a certain amount of bullshit that the powers that be will tolerate, and I have a feeling, knowing what I know about certain characters, I think both real-life police corruption and sort of otherworldly influences may very well come into play.
Oh yeah, and PCs become pawns constantly.
Oh, totally.
That's part of the fun. Is like, okay, little twist in things, and if it's good for, we're here to entertain. This is not a home game where we're sitting around playing just for our own amusement. We're here to entertain you guys and to have fun and to
Definitely.
interact and have you guys tell us what you want and work those things in. And the more that we can do that, great. And so Unwitting Pawns is fun, and it's also fun to watch the good guys kick the crap out of people sometimes, and are really victorious and make big leaps forward. So if you have a good mixture of that, I think that's a good show. So,
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions about what we're going to be doing, past shows? I think that you guys have we're going to have a 0 episode where we make characters, but because we have been talking so much about this, we kind of have an idea of where we're going to be going. And Fate does not take very long to make characters. It's not like Pathfinder.
Yeah, you don't need a program to make a fake character.
You got your fucking abacus. You're like, all right, math.
So much math.
Yeah.
All the maths.
I had a friend that taught math for a while, and he would use D&D, and then for more advanced math, he'd use GURPS.
Why the hate for GURPS? That's a different.
I love
That's
GURPS.
a different Patreon chat, man.
I love GURPS, but they have a space. They have a space book that uses pi.
Wow.
What?
Okay, I never did have that one. So yeah.
What nerd is sitting there going,
There's
I really need
someone's
to know
out
pi.
there.
It's out there.
There's someone's out
They made
there.
it.
Everybody's got their wrinkle.
Yeah.
Dom, do you have anything you want to say you've been sitting here so politely?
No, that's what I do.
Okay, I'm just
sit
making
politely.
sure. I want you to know your
Judge
voice is
silently.
worthy. Okay.
Oh, whoa, okay.
No.
Carry on.
No, I'm super excited for this show. When Wes came to me and was pitching the concept and stuff, I was like, yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see that. It was sort of born out of our desire to have. I wouldn't say more of an action-oriented Cthulhu game,
Right.
but something that had something that it was baked into it. Like Vikings was one direction, and the previous seasons were another direction, and this sort of takes it into a new. And
Right.
being able to do it with Fate, I think is a real fun concept. So
And those dice, man.
They're
Pluses and minuses. That's all
Those
you gotta know.
are
All you got.
brutal. It's
They're
brutal.
murder, like,
it really is.
I can make a 4.
Yeah,
No.
usually
-2.
the interesting thing, if you ever watch Tempting Fate and stuff, but it's the interesting thing is how you can use your aspects and how many of those you can stack and have other people go, because it's
Yeah.
all about teamwork, really. It's
Yeah.
like, oh well, I've got this, so that can help you get you another bonus. It's like,
Totally.
okay, what can I do to build that up and up and up?
Fate forces you to do that.
Yeah.
Because if you go by just the die roll and the fact, like, I've got an average in fight, and so I get +1 for that, and I'm going to roll my dice and use no aspects at all, you're fucked
Probably,
most of the
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so you need to work as a team. I also think that what excites me about using Fate in particular is the fact that, like, you guys can really drill down into. Call of Cthulhu is a skill-based game, so they have all these different skills that you're doing. And yes, you can come up with like bonds and things like that, but this is, like Dom says, baked right into the game, where it's like, we'll know exactly what Terry's character is all about because her high concept will say it, her trouble will say it, and the connections between the different characters will say it. There's also situation aspects, or zone aspects. So when you're like, if something gets set on fire and you guys are fighting in a warehouse and something's on fire, and I write down on a card, oh shit, fire, and I put it out there, that's an aspect. And someone says, well, I'm going to push this guy into the fire, and then you can get a fate point, or the heat's making me have to run away. Okay, you get whatever. It's
Cinching
really
my
cool.
hair.
I cinched my hair. I gotta run. So I'm looking forward to Fate. I've been reading all the different books and kind of, going through, and I think it's really going to fit this group because these guys are great actors. They really are, and that's.
You hear
I was
that,
like,
Hollywood?
yes, and you're like,
Yes.
no. We're right here.
Okay, so I was watching Wild Cards last night, and one of the guys, dwarven something. I forget what his tag name was, but he said, I don't get to watch much TV, but this is better than a lot of the TV that I see, and I didn't want to come off as cocky, but I'm like, you realize everyone's sitting at that table are actors. I mean, Jordan and Megan are, and I don't know about Jordan Pridgeon, but I know that he's in like all these different things.
Yeah.
All these people are trained to do this kind of thing, and so when you have a group like that and you have a system like Fate, you can really have a lot of fun and let them shine, and just be like, okay, do your thing.
Fate, I think, more than almost any other system, especially, is because it's fairly rules light and it's all about those compels and aspects and things. You have to have players who are willing to take that. You can't just have it and be like, okay, I do that thing. You really got it. You got to be committed and be like, yeah, these are my aspects. And if you choose, I played Fate one time, and the aspects that I chose were like the same aspect over and over and over again. And I was just like, I do want them to be really good at this one thing, and it's like, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
You have to
have
spread it out
diversity in your character.
And when Wes and I were talking, we were thinking about the cast and stuff, we were like, oh, you gotta find people who are really going to be able to do this.
Right. Because if you don't, it can fall apart if someone if someone gets stuck on something, it can go down quick. Farquaad, so I have an interesting story about this. all
Yeah, I
right,
can't wait to hear this.
From
Yeah.
this morning, okay? Texas Devin and I were chatting on Twitter back and forth. And he said, without any prompting from me, you know, I'm really excited for Black Bag Detectives. I can't wait. And, you know, we have certain things from the first seasons, like Assless Chaps and, you know, that's probably the best thing about the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
That
Big
means a
Daddy.
lot.
Anyway, he said, I think it's time to hang up Assless Chaps. Well, I'm here to tell you that this group is definitely not the explosive diarrhea group.
No.
That Elder Gods, I mean, that started with Ben falling through a floor on top of a
Kinda don't
bad
wanna
guy, and he decided to do something terrible. It's a lot of fun. You can go back and watch it as many times as you want. But, you know, no. We're not going to have aspects that deal with diarrhea, unfortunately. And what's
Really?
funny...
I'm sorry.
Yeah. What's funny
like,
is
he
in
doesn't know
that
that.
Vikings, the first show
My
of
character's
Vikings...
spine, man.
You weren't here, Dom, but Nick was running the board. And so we're like, okay, no diarrhea. We're not doing that, you know, because Sci-Fi T-Rex will come on and pay money to watch Jordan have nauseous diarrhea. And I said, okay, none. And of course, Jordan, there's this bear or something, and Jordan's like, okay, I think I might crap my pants so that the bear won't come near me. And Nick got so mad because I spent the last hour saying no. And then you go and say that. Fuck you, you're not doing it. And I totally got where Nick was coming from.
I get it. It's a crutch. Poop is always funny. I had a theater
Poop is
teacher
always
actually
funny.
tell me that at UCLA of all places. He was like, "Yeah, shit's always funny. Like,
yeah.
just
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it." And you're
Poop
like,
jokes.
"Okay, great." It can't become a
Hey,
crutch
Scott.
though.
It can, and it's so funny because I felt bad at the end of the second season, and this is not a spoiler at all for the last show. Sci-Fi T-Rex had donated a bunch of money and wanted something horrible to happen to Jordan, and I ended up, you know, because he did donate the money, I made something horrible happen to Jordan with diarrhea, and I'm like, you know, it's hollow at this point. I'm hollow inside. It doesn't have anything for me anymore. You know, that's the
You're all cleared out?
The brown period,
You
like
good?
Picasso,
Good?
is
All right.
over, and it's time to move on. So that's my long answer for a question I probably shouldn't have answered.
It's all right. No, I'm glad that our national nightmare is over.
Yeah, our national nightmare is over.
Since the Fate does emphasize PC relationships baked into character creation, even, have you already discussed some potential links or important things to note? For the session that we played, we did not use the characters that we're ultimately going to be playing in the show, but I feel like based on some of the conversations that we've had, I think there's nothing solid yet, but I feel like there's definitely seeds being planted for how some of our characters already know each other even
Oh,
for
yeah.
episode 1.
I do think, well, because like when you make a character, you have 3 concepts that you fill in that are your first adventure that you had that connect you with the other person. So this is an adventure that you don't actually really play out, but you just say, you know, Michael, you know, saved my bacon during this fight, and that becomes your connection with him.
Terry, here's your bacon.
Oh my God, thank you.
You're welcome.
Delicious.
So, and that is something that if, like, let's say Michael's in a life or death situation, Terry can then go, well, I have this aspect and I'm going to give this bonus to them to be able to help out. And so I think that everybody has their high concept, which is their very first thing. I know Kesley was talking about maybe doing the rookie kind of cop, like the big, you know, I'm new to New York and everything is fresh and cool. And I know that there are people have talked about that kind of thing, but we are saving some of the other concepts for when we actually do the first show, and we are in front of you guys doing the show, and you'll see kind of how it it develops. It does not take long. It is not.
Yeah, that's what I think I really liked about it when
Yeah.
we played practice. It's you are automatically linked with people and have a reason to help them and have a reason to want to connect with them or to be afraid, either way. But there's a lot of cool stuff that you guys, I think, are really going to like about that, too.
We're not just going to meet in a tavern.
No.
All the Basilisk chaps.
You meet at Jimmy's downtown.
Good pastrami there.
Right?
Cross cosplay. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, look at these earrings alone. I mean, that alone, and the Stevie Wonder hat, and she had glasses on. I mean, come on, we can't.
We've got
not
more.
Cosplay.
Yeah, you guys are in for a treat.
I
Yeah.
always like any excuse to dress up, too. I feel like you guys might know that about me already. I will dress up for anything,
Yeah, me
even
too.
when it's not needed.
I was actually going to suggest, if you guys were up for this, there is a thrift store. See, we're going back to cyberpunk, LA. There's a thrift store called Aardvarks
Yeah, I love
on
Aardvarks.
Magnolia, and I think it'd be really cool next weekend or the weekend after before the show, just to go, not necessarily go buy stuff, but just to go down and look and just see what they have lunch. I think that'd be kind of cool because they've got all of this, like, living in LA has some real big perks with that because you've got set houses, prop houses, all these things.
One of my favorite things about the town.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll definitely be doing cosplay.
Wait, is there an Aardvarks on Magnolia?
I thought there was, yeah. Or
There's a bunch of thrifties, and
Yeah,
there's
no, I
also
know.
a bunch of costume houses
If
there.
you live in Southern California and you've not been to Magnolia between Buena Vista and Hollywood Boulevard in Burbank, you really need to go because you've got Halloween Town.
there's so many
You've
great
got the
things.
Bearded Lady Vintage
Oh,
and the
no,
Mystic
I'm thinking
Museum.
I'm not thinking of Burbank. I'm thinking of downtown Hollywood. What am I? I'm messing up the name.
That's okay.
Melrose.
Melrose, yes. I was like,
Yes.
the only Aardvarks I know is in Melrose.
Yeah.
Melrose is also cool, but you really should go to Magnolia.
Magnolia's
between
great.
Hollywood Way
We are
and
turning
Buena
into
Vista
a
Street.
Saturday
Unique
Night Live
vintage.
skit, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but they have the best stuff.
They really
Anyway, sorry.
If you take the 405.
That's where I used to. Because I used to costume back in the day, so that's probably why I got that too.
Then
I
you
used
can
to,
wait
I used
in
to
line
shop a lot
at
there.
Porto's for an hour and get a Cuban sandwich and some potato
Yes,
balls.
and a guava, like ooh, a little
Before my
pastry.
dad comes to see us to visit, he'll land, him and my stepmom will, and they're like, yeah, we're landing at 6 o'clock. I'm like, okay, I won't see you till 9 because you won't stop at us first. You'll stop at Porto's first.
Yeah, right.
Before you come over.
I think they have their priorities on.
Yes,
like
they really
that sounds
do.
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I would do that.
I
Yeah.
love
So
you,
yes,
son, but
we will be dressing up.
Not as much as I
um,
love a Cuban sandwich.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cuban sandwiches are wonderful. So yeah, we will be dressing up. I think it really adds a lot. Porto's is right.
You got it, Scott.
Scott
Yeah.
knows what's up.
Yeah. And I think that it adds so much. I tweeted a picture of Terry just before the show in all her glory with her I guess cosplay or
Sure.
whatever. Sure.
Can you cosplay yourself?
Costume. Oh.
Exactly.
Yes,
Well, yeah.
the answer is yes.
Yeah, you
Yes,
can. I've done
Yeah.
it before. I've played my past and future selves.
And I know Amy Vorpal does a lot of or at least she used to do a lot of cosplay where she has her whole rogue outfit and everything like that. So
Let's
I think
just aim me
that's-
on a normal
Normal
day.
day,
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
So I think that's really fun to do, and it adds a lot. Obviously Wildcards does it all the time.
Yeah, it's a great
So-
effect.
Yeah. So we got about 15 minutes left. If you have any questions about Black Bag or any of the shows that we do
Yeah.
here, any questions about Saving Throw, any suggestions, comments, whatever, let her rip. Let us know.
I would like to make a Halloween and 1970s suggestion for viewing, if I may.
Oh, yeah.
If you've never seen Night Gallery, which was Rod Serling's follow-up to Twilight Zone in the 70s, you absolutely should, because it is a rogues gallery of really great actors doing the show's an hour long, but it's usually a couple of smaller segments. Horror, thriller, supernatural, anthology stuff. But there's an episode, I forget exactly what it's called, but it's got Patty Duke, John Carradine. Is that the oldest Carradine? Let's say it's John Carradine. And
Let's
then
go with
Carl
John.
Reiner doing one of the funniest H.P. Lovecraft things I've ever seen, all in 1 hour of television.
Oh my God.
And you can watch it on Hulu.
Done.
Yeah. That's my thing.
That sounds
that's
great.
my pitch.
Okay.
I mean, the whole series is great, but that episode particularly is my favorite.
One other, I watched The Void recently.
Oh yeah, The Void's so good.
And it's on HBO, and it's not okay. So The Void is every reason why CGI should not be your only visual effects,
Practical.
but
Practical,
you
yeah.
should. I like CGI. I'm not saying you shouldn't use it, but it should be mixed in with practical effects, because they do an awesome job, and they didn't have a ton of money, but because they spent so much time working on the models and doing all this, it's really a good movie, whereas so many of those horror movies are hit and miss.
Yeah.
It's like, will zombie beavers be good?
No, you should know that.
It won't be.
I don't know.
It won't be.
Could be fun though, right?
I'm telling you right now, Zombievers is not good.
Okay, there is a difference between fun and good. All right, you're correct.
Right now, you're correct.
So one time we decided to meet. We were in our 20s, should be the first thing I say. But we decided to rent Kroll, Troll, and Tron.
Oh.
And we started drinking with Troll.
2 of those were good.
Yeah.
Which you find out.
And it was any time that you get a bunch of idiots together in beer and like a theme of there's ours and all the ours and all
That's hilarious.
It's
My
good
favorite
time.
is Troll 2, but
Yeah,
anyway,
Troll 2 is...
with no trolls.
Isn't that considered
Just
like
goblins.
the worst movie ever
Yeah.
made? or
Yes.
what?
Yep, it's one of them.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Nilbog. It's
Well-
goblin backwards, you guys. Sorry if that's
What?
a spoiler.
What? No.
Nilbog?
The deuce, you say. Yes, fuck what. I was just remembering
Yeah.
that Cesar Romero is also in that episode. It's like 2 or 3 minutes long, but it's like perfect. And you can actually see his mustache, I think, in that one. It's not painted over with
white makeup.
With white
Oh,
makeup, yeah.
Wow.
This isn't related to the 70s, but I watched I think it's on Amazon, because now we have to remember all our fucking streaming things. There's George, who was the one Bond who was only...
Lazenby.
Yeah, it was him. They did a documentary with him just sitting there talking about it, and it was incredible. He's a great storyteller. He says why he quit, why he wouldn't do anymore, and it was really cool to watch. So check that one out, definitely. Let's see.
Yes, they are. They're eating her. Now they're going to eat me. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Never,
Yes,
never
thank you.
apologize for
Oh,
that.
so good.
Never apologize for being you, too.
Oh, so good.
Years ago, Michelle and I used to sell T-shirts. So we had like pole dancing, which was Edgar Allan Poe on a stripper's pole, of course, and things like that. And so we did, or Mozart, great decomposers of our time, or things like that. So we did God, I'm forgetting the name of it. There's this horror convention, and we did one in Vegas, and Slipknot was playing the show, and they showed up, and it was just really cool.
I've not heard that in a sentence
Yeah, I
altogether.
know.
I was like,
It was really
It
cool.
was
Really
really
cool.
cool. Well, the lead singer, and I'm blanking on his name, actually took one of my shirts, which was "Zombies Equal Rights, Zombies Were People Too." And he's like, "I want that shirt," and so he took it and then wore it around, which was
that's
awesome.
awesome.
And
Did he
anyway,
pay for it, or did he literally?
no, I
Okay.
gave it to
Okay.
him. I'm like, "You're
All right, just making sure.
you're a billboard.
Here,
Have
number
it."
7 or whatever your name is.
Yeah.
Wasn't that their thing?
Yeah,
They roll
that's
numbers.
numbers.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, the story is the actors from the last house down on the left and the Children of the Corn were all around us, and Bridget Bardot was next to us, and
Wow.
and I was like, "Hey, I love you."
Yeah.
And so I got a thing, all this sign, and I was like, well, the Children of the Corn, they've been sitting there for a while, and no one's getting signatures from them. Now, I hadn't seen Children of the Corn since the 80s, so I'd forgotten. And I went over, and I bought the Blu-ray and got a signature on it, because I'm like, I'm going to be nice. This guy's sitting here, no one's getting a signature, and it sucks. So, I'll go and I'll buy one of those things. So I pay $25. Well, one of the other actors was right next to him. And I asked him, I go, would you mind signing? He goes, well, it's $25 to get a signature. I'm like, okay, $50, what the hell? I don't remember Children Court. I'm sure it's fine, right? So he signs it, and my wife's watching me with horror in her eyes, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
So I spend $50 on 2 signatures from kids from Children of the Corn, and I walk over, and I'm like, tonight we'll watch it. And we watched it, and we just were in silence the whole movie. And when it ended, I said, this was the greatest horror movie ever. We will never question why we bought it. And once every year, we'll watch it just to remind us how wonderful it was and never speak of it again. So yeah, that was our mistake with the old Children of the Corn.
Your heart was in the right place.
It really was. I felt bad for him, but then I realized there's a reason why these people aren't getting signatures. Because the movie sucked.
Yeah.
It's just one of the first in the long line of really bad Stephen King adaptations.
Becoming Bond. Yeah, thank you, Ronald. I appreciate that. It's on Hulu right now. Okay. See, I have Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon, and you get
It's hard, yeah. Who knows?
It's like, is it HBO or Showtime? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Pay extra for it.
Yeah. And Disney's going to have their own.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The future!
I know. Then we're going to be paying exactly how much we
CBS.
paid. We're going to be paying more than we paid for
CBS.
cable. I'm
Yeah,
still
right,
mad.
Right?
CBS is doing a thing where it's like, oh, we have a new Star Trek. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll wait for it to be
but
on Netflix
everything-
because I'm not paying any more.
Everything
streaming
else
fees.
behind the paywall is stuff you can get on other portals.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Anyway. Any other questions about Black Bag 1977?
Or any other
Or anything?
shows or anything coming up.
I will share just sort of a personal anecdote why I really am excited about the game. I went to New York for the very first time in my whole life this year.
What?
Oh.
Yes, never been. But we went in April, and it was just fantastic, and it is easily my second favorite city that I've been to on the planet. You'll have to guess what the first one is.
Ooh.
It's
Mumbai.
not Los Angeles, I'll tell you that. I've not been to Mumbai, but I hear very good
Fargo.
things about Mumbai. But just knowing the way that the city is laid out and all these little enclaves and different communities and just the history of it, I mean, I couldn't be more excited to be using that as an imaginary playground right now. I really couldn't. So,
Port Stanley, Falkland Islands.
no.
No.
Yeah, it's funny because, Michelle was like, because I actually have never had the opportunity to go, but Michelle is gone, and she's like, everything's on top of each other.
Oh, dude, yeah.
You think to yourself, oh, look, the Hell's Kitchen is really far away from Times
I don't feel so
Square.
bad, Scott. Thank you.
You were raised right there. And you
Wait,
didn't
we're in
go?
upstate because we went upstate too for a wedding. We'll talk later.
But the cool thing is, like, you look at a map and you go, wow, those two places are far away, and they're not.
They're not. Everything's but it is still huge though too. It's so weird.
And
It
yet
feels
it takes a long time to get there. Though.
Yes.
The subways.
The
Fucking
MTA.
subways, man.
like the worst this year. But I remember my first time. I lived in Maryland for a time, and my friends and I we drove up to New York. That was my first time going there, and driving into the city is different than flying in because I did that later, a couple years later. But driving in, I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just looking at the island. I remember turning to my friend going, I think I can see its heart beating. Like I felt like it was doing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
This
New York's
because there's
alive.
so many people and you can just see everybody on top of each other.
And every street is like a little microcosm.
Yeah.
Microclimate.
And it's hard to escape in that space. It's hard to find quiet places, and I feel like it was different in the 70s too. There definitely has that element, but there were places where it was just like abandoned and
burnt out.
Burnt
because
out,
a lot of
broken
people
down.
were, burning their apartment buildings to get the insurance money and doing stuff like that. And there's a picture of Donald Trump and his father standing on a top of a building overlooking some area, and it's like half of the buildings are burnt out.
Just decimated.
And you realize that the reason that he was able to do all the things he did in the late 70s, early 80s as a real estate mogul is, number one, his dad gave him a bunch of money.
Well, sure.
But number two, the city was destroyed, and it was a lot easier to go in and say, hey, I'll revitalize this area. here's $3 million for this plot
Downtown
of
LA,
land.
anyone? Downtown
Yeah,
LA?
right.
Yeah.
Happening right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Also,
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to ask Dom something about Homebrew, which is on Sunday, correct? And I saw that and it looked interesting. So I was wondering what it was.
Like that. Oh,
I know, that's why I
okay.
was going to let Michael do his
No. I'm more interested in this.
Jackson Lansing, who is the GM of Vast on Geek and Sundry, is stepping in. Tempting Fate is taking a break as a bunch of people are at New York Comic Con. And he is
right.
running a game that he created called 10 Candles. It's a space game.
Ooh.
And there will be candles and such. And Sam DeLev and Sax Carr and some other people are going to be playing that game. And
Not for nothing, but I'm just looking at all these China balls, and I'm suddenly very worried.
well, I think that they're going to be our little electric candles.
Okay,
there.
fine.
We'll be safe.
That's my suggestion anyway to Jackson if you're watching this, which you're not. But yeah, so it's something he created, so it's going to be interesting. All space-based NASA space station stuff.
That's a very good first New York City memory.
Right. It's funny. I was talking to the cast when we first got together. And we were talking because my kids are like, "Hey, Dad, can we watch your stream?" I'm like, "Absolutely not." Never.
I'm walking here. I want all of that. I'm walking here. I'm walking here. I want a sequence of that.
Well, why not? I go, because we say tons of swear words. So he's like, well, my 10-year-old's like, well, I have no swear words. I say, I know you know swear words, son, but you don't know them in the combinations that I do.
You know what? Minor spoiler. Not my guy.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. But everybody else, so the whole swearing food cart guy will be there.
We've been down by the docks, I think.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is if you actually go on my Instagram account, Michael R. Holmes, and you scroll down past all of the things saying I'm going to be on saving throw and the pizza that I make for my wife.
That looks so good, by the way.
There's
Anyway.
a picture of the Wonder Wheel Ferris wheel at Coney Island on an overcast day, which to me is kind of like just my summation of my inspiration for this game. Anyway.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's like the end of one of the lines. By the way, you take the
Yeah.
the subway out there, and
That was remarkable.
It's
that whole
a
journey.
crazy ride, isn't it?
Yeah. And then you get to the beach, and it's just like, wow, this is the end of the world.
that's how it feels.
Yeah.
It really does.
It's different than California beaches by a
Yes,
long
East
shot.
Coast beaches
Yeah.
are different.
Yeah. I think we're wrapping up. Thank you guys so much for being Patreon backers.
Thank you. Gosh.
We see most of you in the streams, and Warriors.
Yes.
You can't forget that one. That's mandatory. But or taxi cab driver, or there's so many great. What's interesting is how much our sensibilities have changed since the time, because the use of like racial slurs or sexual denigration and everything else was so prevalent and so normalized during these movies. And I watched them being a bleeding heart liberal going, oh my God, what the hell?
It's definitely
What
a
is
product
that?
of a
No.
different time.
I feel
but
that way
doesn't
watching
make it
80s
okay.
movies now.
80s
It's
movies.
crazy.
Oh my God.
Like, I've been rewatching some of the John Hughes stuff, and I was like, oh,
God, and 80s.
cringe.
So before we leave, Fuckwad was
yes.
wondering if there's any channel news or any info before next month.
Not that I know of. There's some things that I'm working on right now that hopefully I'll have a little bit more solid. The big thing is that Extra Life is coming up, and that's going to be October 27th and 28th. It's going to be another 24-hour marathon raising money for children's hospitals,
Yes.
the Children's Miracle Network. We are just sort of securing everything right now and getting that done, but it will be Halloween themed. There will be a costume contest.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
That's about
so
all I
excited. I love
can
this.
tell you at this point. But tune in. It will start with wild cards on Friday night, and it will go to Saturday night. So that's the end of this month, and then I don't know. Lots of other stuff in the ether right now that we're just sort of trying to solidify. So
And Black Bag, as I said, starts on the 23rd. Our second game is the night before Halloween, which I'm very excited about. It's on the 30th, and That's really cool.
Halloween Eve. I
Yeah.
do celebrate it, so
Yes.
I'm really excited to be here for that.
Literally, it's a month long for me.
Yeah.
I haven't been getting into it as much the past week as I would have liked, but that's okay.
It was a rough week.
With Tom Petty and the
yeah.
Vegas thing
Everything.
and everything.
And one of my favorite
else.
professors passed away on Friday. So
May I hug you? Is that
yeah.
So one other thing real quick, speaking of all the tragedy going on Drive Through RPG right now, there is a hurricane relief bundle. It's the #1 selling thing. Plate Mail Games put some tracks in there, but even if you already have the tracks, who gives a fuck? It's $25, and we've raised. I looked at my sales because all of the stuff is put to 0, and then they put one thing at 25 in the bundle, but it tells me how many things have been downloaded, and from just the stuff of mine that got downloaded, we've raised $15,000.
Wow.
Which is
That's great.
insane. So, and that's one thing that I love about this community is we help each other out and we help the world out. So, if you got $25 and you want literally $400 worth of different really cool things, go and pick that up today if you can, because Puerto Rico needs our help.
Yeah.
Big
You
time.
know, Trump isn't really helping all that much. Let's
They're
try
gonna
to
need
help
more
them.
than paper towels.
Yeah, they're going to need more than paper towels, and they're going to need, a lot. And so if you check it out, it's a really great deal, and it's a really good cause. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
thank you so
thank
much
you.
for being...
This is a really nice way to spend a Saturday morning or
Yeah.
afternoon, wherever
Yeah.
you may be.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being Patreon backers, and we will see you very soon in all the streams. And hope you join us for Black Bag Detectives. So...
Watching the detective. Oh,
it's so
cute.
She is
watching the detectives.
and they shoot.
have a good one, guys.
Bye.
I'm not sorry.